Welcome back. You're watching Storyboard. GroupM India has released its annual this year, next year T/Y report this week, and as per the report, the overall ad revenue is expected to reach a 1,55,386 crore in 2024, with an incremental of 14,423 crore compared to 2023. What are some of the factors shaping this growth? How will the Indian ad market also see an upside from the spends leading to the general elections? And in what way is digital media, particularly retail and digital extensions of TV, expected to shape the business? Prasanth Kumar, CEO GroupM South Asia, tells us more. PK, welcome to CNBC TV18, and great to meet you again for our annual chit-chat around this year, next year.
Yeah, same feeling here, and thanks for having me.
So, PK, advertising revenue in India is expected to grow at 10.2% at 155,386 crore this year. What are some of the factors driving this growth, PK?
We're seeing a few categories actually fueling this. So one is the entire auto category, the reality, the retail, and I think the entire bunch of the SME category is actually fueling that, right? We also see some of the way it can play down is we may have a much more stronger first half related to last year, right? So the base is last year, but at the same time we have IPL and the World Cup happening in the first half itself that can actually play it. So some of this actually will fuel more, right? It's also interesting to see some of the different mini categories playing in different media side, right? So we have the commerce actually fueling growth there. We have the CTV aspect growing there, right? And this actually fuels growth there. And of course, the source coming from SME is also adding to the growth as such. Right?
Also, during the presentation, you mentioned, VUCA for both of us, like for the clients and for the agency side as well.
So, this is a chain, right? I mean, you have a demand and you have a supply, and we play in both sides. I think definitely when you see more and more VUCA coming from a demand side, right? Estimating that, we'll have our own plans, looking at the full year. And once the change happens and there are any radical change happening there, it becomes slightly uncertain, right? We did see that happening, in the first half of last year, where I think though the slowdown started somewhere in the second half of 22, because we did see the startup, brands actually reducing the spends, but we never thought that it will go to a very large extent, as we saw in the last year. And this way, when demand goes down, and as well as some of the changes that can happen from a supply side, brings in a lot more VUCA aspect on this.
Sure.
And it plays to different category, it plays to different season, right? And that actually came on, right? In fact, the second quarter of last year, we had a lot of IPL as an estimation, and we did see some of the brands missing on those, which are mainly startup brands. But we also saw a lot of brands coming onto IPL, if you look at overall, TV plus digital as such. But there were a bit of a challenge, from that context. That is again a kind of an uncertain aspect. And how it is going to play down during the course of the year. You mentioned about inflation. So we did have the inflation actually hitting on to some of the major spends from conventional clients. And that is again coming from global. Now how the entire geopolitical challenges, how does it play on, how will it impact some of the inflation, how will it play back? These are all quite challenges for spends, and therefore our preparation also goes for a toss, right? So it's a managing of demand and supply in a certain form. So that brings in a lot of uncertainty, right? And obviously that is bringing a lot of anxiety into the entire play.
Also, election year, how do you see its impact on the media and advertising industry going forward?
So we are estimating close to about 1 to 1.5% of the ADEX for election. So that's a good thing. That's another one which is fueling on to, how this 10.2 is becoming, right? And we feel that, one of the questions last, when we were actually presenting this was, how much do you see the split happening? Our estimate is 55% of that, right now may go on to digital, and the rest will go to the non-digital side. There could be a play of plus minus 5%, depending on how the category is actually growing or declining, right? But that's how we're seeing it. So that again plays in the first half, right? So that's a good fuel which you're seeing towards the growth, towards the fueling of the growth.
So 10.2% is your estimate for 2024 for ad revenue. But apart from this figure, what is the general mood that you're sensing in the market, PK, if you can tell us that? And basis that, how are you helping, some of your top clients formulate their media strategy stepping into the year?
There is a bit of intelligently cautious, mood across marketers, right? Because they're looking at two halves differently, they're looking at seasons differently, they're looking at opportunities differently, right? We have two impact properties coming, neck to neck, or rather three, as you said, Olympics also. So you got IPL, you got World Cup, and you got Olympics, right?
And followed then by the festive season.
Festive season, and then you have an election, in between that, right? So these are all coming together as such. I think categories will be prioritized where they want to be looking at for a big bang for the larger spend which they're doing. So while there is intelligently cautious aspect, as well as some of the opportunities coming in, the mood is reasonably okay, I would suggest. That's why the first half relatively slightly higher. But there are a few risks and challenges which is there. As I said about inflation, which is discussed about the geopolitical, those are again risks that we'll have to flow on with it, which we'll have to look at, right? So first half, let's see how the first half moves on. We're hoping that the first half actually captures a larger perspective of this, and therefore directionally, if it is giving that kind of growth which you're estimating, I would rather want to say that if we actually divide this into few other statistics, if I may, when I look at the 21 to 24 CAGR of ADEX growth, it is around 12%, right? And if I take the 2 years out, which is 2020, which had a decline, almost like 18% decline, and
owing to the pandemic.
Well, the pandemic,
yeah.
And you had a 21, which is a comeback over pandemic, which is like grew about 45%. If you keep these 2 years out and look at 2010 to 19, the CAGR is about 13%. So very similar kind of growth, 12 to 13% happening now, right? Which I think shows the fact that while the numbers have gone high, the pace of growth we are able to hold on to that, and that's also because the market is really expanded, right? I mean, you got SMEs playing a larger role. Of course, it is playing a larger role for the digital media, but it's also bringing in opportunities because brands are getting active, new birth of new brands are coming in, etc. So those things are good opportunities for the market to really look at even more expansion, as well as using, when I look at the growth between mediums, I think TV today needs to look at how technology can help them to further expand their opportunities for the SME list of clients, or many more markets as such, right? So those things will actually only make the sustainability of the growth of this pace of growth for many more years to come.
And connected TV is also an opportunity, is
definitely
what we saw during the presentation.
Yeah, so we are seeing see TV to be about 21% of the TV households, so almost like 1/5, right?
Of the TV households.
So it's grown. It is it's moving on now. The content play will play a larger role there. Advertisers are coming in. Larger expansion of advertisers will come in there. So all of this is also expanding the horizon for multi growth opportunities across media.
Also, if you look at, this media agency business today, the top 3 media agencies in the country are under GroupM.
We're very blessed and we're very fortunate.
How do you look at that? And also, which one do you think has the most opportunity and headroom to grow in this year, given the dynamics and given the situation?
I think, as I said, we're very blessed and very fortunate, and a lot of gratitude to our advertisers, our clients, and to our partners, right? Every single media partner. I think a lot of it has come through a lot of efforts from across everyone, right? I don't think it's a collective effort which has come out with. Headroom for growth, why not all 3? Right? Headroom for growth is there across.
I'm pushing you to pick your favorite child at the moment.
It's a difficult one, I must confess, but I don't think, but the reality and the truth, if I may, is that I think everybody is very ambitious for growth, right? I think the strategies may differ, right? Different categories, playing on different markets, right? Aspects of, solutions, more customized on, could be content area, it could be the digital area or the data area. So these are all flavors which I think today we have all the freedom and liberty to choose how we want to play it. And of course, it's an exciting time for me to look at how each one of us played, and also be involved in many of this, because that is also exciting, because a lot of learning and trying to experiment many more solutions. So I won't choose any one of them, but there is definitely growth, and all three are highly competitive from that context. And I walk tall because of all the three, and I thank my three agencies. Sometimes it can become very competitive, but again, because of the fundamental values, we see this having fun with the same kind of situation.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for this conversation, PK.
Thank you, Shibani. As always, great pleasure.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, X and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time next week. See you soon.